Hi, are you wondering what the spiritual meaning of the coronavirus may be and what's going on at a higher level of consciousness? If so, you're in the right place today. Hi, my name is Liz Garcia. I'm founder of the Mind Body Spirit Network and host of your weekly dose of higher consciousness podcast and videocast on YouTube. And I've been on hiatus for the last 3 months, and I thought now's a good time to kind of come on in and share my perspective of the higher level of consciousness meaning of the coronavirus and how it's affecting our world today. So this is going to be kind of a longer formatted video. So I'm going to tell you right now what you can expect. And below the video, you can see where in the video you can go to the section that you care about most. So first up, we're going to talk about the spiritual meaning of the coronavirus. And to give you a different perspective that can actually bring inner peace and understanding, which is a higher level of consciousness to help you weather the storm of this whole thing. Then we're going to talk a little bit, as part of this, we're going to talk about the Crown Chakra and how it's related to this whole situation. And then I have a great resource for you to check out, which there'll be a link below this video and podcast to do so. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm also going to give you some helpful tips for dealing with fear and anxiety, and understand, what can you do to kind of distract yourself and get out of fear and anxiety mode. And then I'm going to share a story with my insights as to the parallels of what happened at 9/11 and what's going on now. And I see, similarities there. And it kind of was an aha moment when I watched that video about the relationship between the Crown Chakra and the coronavirus as well. And then I want to give you an understanding of the levels of consciousness, put it into context. And I have a whole video on lower and higher levels, but I'm going to do quickly what's going on now, what's the level of consciousness of it, and where do you want to put your attention so you can actually help move this thing more quickly through our mass consciousness and mass awareness and get back to work and life as we used to know it. And then I'm going to offer some affirmations for dealing with the coronavirus. And there's some powerful words and plays in consciousness, and we'll talk about those levels of consciousness that you're using with your intention to help you feel better while you're going through this and shift the consciousness of the world. I mean, when you operate from a high level of consciousness, you absolutely ripple out in the world and can affect change. So I'm asking us all to be the change we want to see in this world. Starts within yourself. So let's get started with, well, first of all, did I introduce myself first? My name is Liz Garcia. I'm your happy host of Trumpeter of Truth Radio and trumpeteroftruthtv.com. And today we're going to start with the spiritual meaning of coronavirus. Now, the fact that you're even asking about this is coming from an intuitive understanding or knowingness that there's something more at play here and that we're not being punished. Okay, at lower levels of consciousness, you could perceive it as being a punishment when in fact it is not. So I want to introduce you to, I'm going to share a video that a woman by the name of Katy Bray, who's a brilliant healer and gifted teachers on the energy architect of the chakras and the energy system in general. And I met her through the Shift Network. She's a Shift Network faculty member. And she brought it to my awareness that corona in Spanish means crown. And she, as an energy architect, sees this as a play of the experience of the Crown Chakra as a collective experience. So we as individuals are playing a bigger part in the evolution of our own consciousness by participating in this experience of the Crown Chakra and understanding that the Crown Chakra is the level of consciousness of peace and oneness. So I'm going to encourage you to go take a look at Katy's video because she gives a really grounded, interesting perspective on the experience of the chakras on a mass level throughout the decades, starting at World War II. So World War II was a root chakra experience. The 60s and 70s, you're moving into the sacral or second chakra. The 80s is the solar plexus, which is the land of the ego and coming into self-empowerment. So I'm not going to give it all away, but I want you to check out the link below and go check out to put this into context. Putting this into context on a greater, higher perspective helps for you to kind of come into peace with it and understand this is a play at a higher level for all of us. So I do want to talk about the crown chakra, and the level of consciousness of the crown chakra is pretty high. And if you're new to this podcast and this understanding, I'm going to encourage you to go take a look at my first 10 episodes, which will lay the groundwork for understanding levels of consciousness. You want to understand what the lower levels of consciousness are. I mean, it's no surprise, but when you put it into context and give it a calibration as to its energy and power, you'll understand, okay, where is there power and how can I solve problems? If I'm hanging out where there's no power, that you can't solve a problem. And there's also an episode on the higher levels of consciousness. And you got to understand where we're at on the planet, in the broad context, where you at as an individual, and how can you affect change in your own life and help move us all through this thing a little more quickly, whether, it's meant to go quickly or not. Who am I to say? I don't know. Our collective consciousness will have to come together on moving through this quickly. And that happens with understanding, acceptance, stepping into courage, and letting go of fear and anxiety and all that stuff. So the crown chakra on the map of consciousness calibrates at 600 on the map. And like a dummy, I put away the book that I wanted to refer to. Well, actually, I don't need the book. I understand. So I want to just go through what's going on at the crown chakra and understand that the collective experience right now is a experience of the crown chakra within all of us and among all of us as one. It's a oneness thing. And as you've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed advertisements that are like, we're in this together, we're in this together, we're in this together. That's just reiterating what I'm telling you. We're in this together. This is an exercise in understanding what oneness really is, working together in times of need and in general. And it's not like we're going to change overnight into very high levels of consciousness on the concept of oneness. And I can share with you, I've come into the awareness of very high levels of consciousness, and I've experienced it. And there's been 2, maybe 3 occasions, I can't remember, when the energy or the consciousness of oneness filled every cell in my body. It was profoundly, stunningly beautiful beyond description. It's an ineffable experience that you have to experience, which is kind of rare. But I understand the beauty and magnificence of the highest level of consciousness of oneness, which we're not even close. But as we evolve through history, there's a little piece, now pieces of, the consciousness of oneness is coming into the planet. We're all getting a taste of it. And it's kind of becoming integrated into our system at the level that we're at. So we're getting a little taste of it right now. So the crown chakra calibrates at 600 on the map of consciousness, which is it's the doorway to enlightenment, which if you've watched my videos, most of the planet has absolutely no awareness of this existence of this level of consciousness, because most of the planet is operating at 207. Most of the people on the planet are operating, 85% of the people on the planet operate below 200 on the map of consciousness. So if you're listening to this, it's likely you have an interest in the truth and where higher consciousness and true power really exists. So this is, again, this is just understanding the higher level perspective of the spiritual meaning of the coronavirus. So it's incredibly meaningful when you look at it from a higher level that all of us come together to help each other in one way or another. whether it's with your immediate family, your community, people at work, whatever it is, you're kind of letting go of crap because that doesn't matter right now, and caring about what's going on with all of us. And I always had the belief or understanding, like if we were attacked by crazy, aliens, we would all come together as a planet. We'd stop bickering with each other. And I think it's safe to say we'd come together as a planet. So the Crown Chakra, there's stuff going on at the level of the Crown Chakra. And this is all based on the map of consciousness from Dr. David Hawkins' teachings in Power versus Force. So at the level of 600, it's the level of peace. And this is a peace like you can't imagine. It's beyond description type of peace. The process going on is illumination, it's what's going on with us now. It's illuminating what matters. What really matters is life, right? Not bickering about who's going to be the next president of the United States, or why this person is no good. It's like a waste of time. But it's illuminating what does matter. And you're going to still have opinions, and you're going to get back into your groove of having opinions about stuff. But right now it's an understanding and the infusion of illumination in the process of our evolution of consciousness, shining a light on what really matters. The emotion is bliss. Now, it would be a rare individual experiencing bliss right now, because you'd have to be at the level of consciousness of 600, which, by the way, there was, at last count, maybe 12 people on the planet ever reached this level of consciousness. The self-view, meaning how you view yourself, is perfect. You're perfect. And you're blissfully perfect, and grateful to accept that you're blissfully perfect because you are aware of higher consciousness and the presence of divinity in your life. And the God view is all being. You understand that this is a God play going on right now. God is in every one of us playing this out to illuminate what matters for now and step into a higher level of consciousness, whatever that may be. Currently we're about 207. The whole planet is about 207. And maybe this play can lift us up a point on the map, which is, the map of consciousness is exponential. 207 is 10 to the 207th power, to shift all of us to come together and illuminate what matters in life at this point in time could raise us a point or two, which is huge to do that. We're here for eternity, so there's no rush. There's no rush in the evolution of consciousness, because we're just going to get to a point where we come back and do it all over again, right? It's like a wheel. If you've ever read Conversations with God, God's like, it's a wheel. It's not a ladder, it's a wheel. You go around the wheel and then you start over again. So what's the rush? Don't judge for yourself for where you're at on the map, where the country and the world is at on the map right now. It's just a simple process and an opportunity to realize we're shining the light on what matters in life. So I just wanted to share that in regards to the Crown Chakra and the spiritual meaning of the coronavirus. Like from a higher level perspective, there's a silver lining to everything. And if you take a look at your own life, you see what's going on around you. This wouldn't have happened without, sometimes we've got to get clobbered over the head with an iron pan. This is kind of my metaphor. You don't shift unless something major rocks your foundation. So this is something major rocking your foundation to bring you to a higher level of consciousness and understanding that we are a whole operating as one, whether we are aware of it or not. And to let go of our individual, survival mode, which is root chakra stuff. So next up in this video on the spiritual meaning of coronavirus, I'm going to give you some tips for dealing with fear and anxiety. So it's a good idea to go take a look at my video on lower levels of consciousness and what they are. And I'm going to look up the episode and I'll share it on the screen here so you know which episode to go look at. But you need to understand that fear and anxiety calibrates at 100 on the map of consciousness. That energy, fear, anxiety, doubt, worry, it's super low. Anything below 200 is destructive, downward pulling, and not helpful, right? It just keeps, if you want to focus there, you're going to continue to be drawn into that attractor field. This is magnetic. That'll bring you down into lower levels, which you don't want to go there. So here's my tips for dealing with fear and anxiety right now. And one of them is I have another highly gifted intuitive healer who is another member of the Shift Network faculty who's she's pretty well known in the healer realm, and she teaches healers she has an intuitive healer program that I would highly recommend if you're a healer. That really fine tunes your ability to be a intuitive healer. And she has other programs that can help you tap into the higher levels of consciousness. But in any event, she has put together a meditation for grounding from anxiety, right? That root chakra, if you're feeling all this, is really unstable right now. So she's got a meditation that's going to help ground you into the root chakra and lessen the anxiety, as well as clear the chakras. So she's a chakra expert as well. So is Katy Bray, the other woman I'm recommending. So there'll be links below this to a blog post I wrote about each of those with their videos attached. So you can, if you're at home and you want to learn something new and you want to stay grounded and centered, all of these tools and tips are intended to help. And you participating in this intention is going to raise the level of consciousness for all of us to move through this quickly. Be nice to be done with this by May 1st for all of us. So here's my tips for dealing with anxiety and doubt. Let me just open up my document here so I can stay on track. The first thing I'd recommend is stop watching the news, okay? So the news likes to hype everything, except for it's hyped at a low level of consciousness, which is not helpful. However, according to consciousness calibrations from, I have a friend who has a website called consciousnesscalibrations.com, and his Facebook page for that website shared that the reporting of the coronavirus is helpful, and it calibrates at around 225 on the map of consciousness, which means it's true. It's helpful and true. So just checking in on what's going on once a day is enough. Keeping the news on 24/7 on this is creating an attractor field and a magnetic attractor field for you to be kind of kept in lower consciousness on this topic. You do not want to be sucked into the fear and doubt and all the lower levels that are not helpful to you or anybody else. So if you want to just check in, see what's going on in a community, fine. Do that so that you can be aware of what you need to do. What action do you need to take? But to watch it 24/7 is not a good idea. And your own consciousness, the way you feel about it, is telling you, if you ever listen to the law of attraction, the teachings of Abraham, you're inviting it into your experience by giving it your attention. So stop doing that. It's not also not super helpful to listen to death counts, right? They're not helpful because, it's somewhat helpful, but not super helpful because it's bordering on lower consciousness that you can easily be sucked into if you go into fear about death counts. And I always like to say, put it into context. Put it into greater context. Like, what's the death count of the flu every year? Significantly higher than what's going on now, right? 100,000 people die of the coronavirus in the population of 7 billion people. That's like a flea. It's like nothing, relatively speaking, which is not to dismiss death, but hello, people are dying of something every day, right? Car wrecks, alcoholism, liver disease, cancer, you name it. There's tons of stuff going on. Okay, so you got to put it into context. This is a great opportunity, especially if you're at home or sequestered somewhere and not working, is to practice letting go of fear and doubt. And I did a whole episode on how to let go. And when you learn how to let go, you're going to shift into higher levels of consciousness. The more you do it, the better it gets. And you're going to shift into new awarenesses. This is how you get into higher levels of consciousness, by letting go of the lower stuff. So I'm going to share the link, and on the video, I'll tell you what episode it is. I need to look it up again. I think it's episode 10, because it's one I really want to, this is the whole point of this, is to learn how to let go. So now's a great time to be with fear and doubt, and be willing to say, I'm in fear and doubt right now, right? Don't judge yourself for being in it. It's okay, because it's within your system, from decades of suppressing stuff, right? Suppressed and repressed emotions build up, and all this fear and doubt from the past is starting to come out, which is good. You want it to come up so it can come into your awareness, and then you can say out loud, I'm willing to let this go. I'm willing to be with the fear, as uncomfortable as it may be. I'm willing to be with it and allow the energy of it to come out of me. It's like letting air out of a balloon ready to pop, or a tire ready to pop. That's all you're doing. You're releasing energy. It doesn't mean anything. So recommend seeing that video, and I'll walk you through the whole process. This is a good time to learn how to let go. Other things you can do right now is play with your kids and your pets. Playing is of higher consciousness. It's like, I think playing is 390 on the map of consciousness. Hello. You can be in fear at 100 and get nothing done, and pull yourself deeper into depression and grief and sorrow and like anxiety. Or you can play. Shut off the television, shut off the news, go play a game with your kids or your pets. Way more energy in that 390. You're solving problems. You're rippling out the energy of solving the problem by having fun. Help a neighbor or a friend in need. That's like, it feels good to do that. That's lovingness going out in the world. That's lovingness, which is 500 on the map of consciousness. Caringness and support, like support, I think is like being supportive is 245, I think, on the map of consciousness. High level, these are attractor fields that solve problems. So be a part of solving the problem, do not be a part of the problem by staying focused on fear and doubt. Here's a fun one I thought of for my own family. Put together an online meetup with your family, friends, and associates. And I thought, oh my God, we should have a family reunion right now on Meetup, because many of my family members are working from home, or, everyone's sequestered. Like, why not have a family reunion on a Meetup? How fun could that be? Here's another one. If you haven't heard of lumosity.com, lumosity.com. It's not it's not Illuminosity, it's lumosity.com. It's a fun brain training platform that teaches you how to retrain 5 different areas of your brain. I have so much fun on that. And I raise my level of consciousness, because it's like recanoodling the energy on all areas of my brain. Fun games. They can be challenging, but then it tells you where are you at versus people in your age group. Like, where are you at? And I'm like kicking it. I'm like in the 95th percentile of an age group of 30-year-olds. I'm super high and really good at the brain training. And at my own age, which is now, what am I, 57, I'm in like the 99th percentile. So if you don't want to go senile, it's a good way to train your brain and keep the noodle going, because your all areas of the brain are firing now, not just like if you do crossword puzzles, you're working on one little area of the brain, and you're kind of making a train track of that, as opposed to firing everything in the brain. Another thing you can do, which is a great idea, a friend of mine is doing this now, is cleaning up your house, getting organized, and getting rid of a bunch of crap. Purge the stuff that you haven't used in a year or more, And check out Marie Kondo. She's like the guru of, she's a beautiful, charming Japanese woman, I believe. And if you go to her YouTube videos, she's got some videos on getting organized at home, and understand that cleaning up your home, getting organized, and purging is an exercise in higher consciousness and letting go of the past, letting go of the energy of old stuff. Another great tip during this period is check out Masterclass. If you haven't been to masterclass.com or seen the ads on the newspaper, there's so many fantastic lessons to be learned on there. And I signed up for the year-long pass, which was $180. And at the time, you could buy one, get one free. I mean, there's more than 70 classes with world-renowned teachers in all areas of life: sports, cooking, entrepreneurship, leadership, makeup, acting, directing. Like, I've taken Ron Howard's class. I've taken Bobby Brown's makeup class. The CEO of Spanx, I forget her name now. Anyway, she talks about entrepreneurship. I love the cooking classes. I've taken Thomas Keller's cooking class, and if you don't know him, he's like the chef of the French Laundry, and he's like the only top-rated Michelin, I think 3-star Michelin chef in the country. He's a fantastic teacher. So there's so much you can learn that's of higher consciousness, that takes you out of looking at fear and doubt and what's going on in the world, and learning something new. Learning something new and being open to learning something new is of higher consciousness. I also want to give a plug for the mindbodyspiritnetwork.com. I'm the founder of that, and I'm the conscious curator of online events, mostly from the Shift Network and Sounds True. There's free online events that you can go, and there's some coming up that you'll want to participate in because they're super interesting. There's always some coming up, and then past events, you can still access the recording. They're 1-hour webinars. Why not learn something new on a really unusual topic that's of interest to you? And we also have online courses. You just go in, buy the course, and get trained on something right now. And I love the courses on medical intuition. Super interesting to learn how to be a medical intuitive for your own health. Those are good ones. I mean, there's a ton of them, but you want to check it out. Another good one coming up is the Inner MBA. Inner MBA. So getting a master's in dealing with your inner game. That's a good one. And that's a collaborative effort between Sounds True, LinkedIn, Mindfulness University, the Mindfulness program at NYU. I mean, it's a pretty interesting collaboration. So you can find all of those at the mindbodyspiritnetwork.com. So learn something new is a good way to distract yourself and enter into higher consciousness about something. Be open to that. Another thing I shared in my email newsletter last week is listening to what I call high vibe music. Now, you know what high vibe music is. The lyrics are pretty clean. They make you feel good. They're about love and good times, right? High vibe music. Examples of super high vibration music is classical music. I mean, if you want to go into inner peace, put on Mozart and Beethoven right now and keep it going in the background. Another thing is chants on YouTube. You can find some chants that are of super high vibration, and ones that I know off the top of my head are Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum. So it's Om Mani Padme Hum. That's a chant. Another one is Om Namah Shivaya. Om in general, just Om is, all of those are 600 and up. That's huge. Gregorian chant, super high frequency to bring your household and your own energy into inner peace. Those are the levels of, those are 600 and above, all of those. And I found the Lord's Prayer being sung by Enrico Caruso, an opera singer. Super high vibe in the 600s. So if you want inner peace, you can align with it with that type of music, along with some of our best Christmas songs like Amazing Grace, Oh Holy Night, like sung by Whitney Houston. Holy crow, you want to enter higher consciousness. There you go. Celine Dion singing Amazing Grace. Jesse Norman singing Amazing Grace. All of these, super high vibe. Those are all 575 holiday music. I mean, why not? And then some other high vibe music that's like in the high hundreds, which is kind of surprising, but not. But 500 is the level of love. The music at the level of love, some of them are Barry Manilow, the Bee Gees, Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, Barbra Streisand, all of those guys. They're singing at a very high level. And I'll do a whole, I'm going to create a post and I'll share it below this video once it gets done, of high vibe music and what you can tune into. Obvious stuff you don't want to listen to is like gangster rap. That's at the level of consciousness of fear and doubt and anger and hate. Not ideal if you want to feel better about what's going on right now. The ones I'm suggesting, 500 and above, hello, they're going to clean up your energy field and make you feel at peace. Another thing you can do with your kids is watch high vibe television programming, like good, clean comedy. You know, the Bill Cosby Show, Friends. My personal favorite is Gilmore Girls. The movie Forrest Gump, super high vibe. You want to talk about unconditionally loving and joyful? Forrest Gump is that. Other examples of high vibe movies you can watch is Miss Congeniality with Sandra Bullock, Avatar, Emma. I think, what's her name? Gwyneth Paltrow was in Emma. That's a, what's that famous writer's name? You know who she is, who wrote Emma. Okay, it's not, it's beyond me right now. And anyway, there's a new website out from the leader of a consciousness calibrations group that I belong to, and it's called consciousnesscalibrations.com. He's doing the calibrations of current movies, TV shows, things like that, that Dr. Hawkins hasn't already done. Now, if you want an encyclopedia of consciousness calibrations, you want to take a look at his book, Truth versus Falsehood. This is like an encyclopedia of calibrations, which I highly recommend. It's a lot of fun to know where good juju is. All right. So that's my tips for dealing with fear and anxiety right now. Simple tips. You're at home. I'm trying to align you with higher consciousness and be aware that there are levels of consciousness. If you give your attention to, you now become an attractive field for it. Why not? You don't want to be an attractive field for coronavirus, that's for sure. Okay. So next up on the spiritual meaning of coronavirus, I want to share my insights as to what I felt not while 9/11 was going on, after the fact, after I had my own quantum spiritual awakening and kind of started to understand consciousness and taking a look at things and studying consciousness, things come to me at higher levels because I asked for it. Higher level understandings, like my little prayer is like, God, show me your point of view of this. Show me a higher level point of view. And while I was contemplating 9/11 one day, and I have to say, I was living in Boston at the time it happened, so it really hit home because it was so close to home. And a plane, you know, from Boston went into the tower, which was kind of, you know, for all of us, it was shocking. And at the time, I lived, I had a business on the corner of, now I can't remember, Clarendon and Boylston and Newbury Street. I was right in that little block in Boston. And I was on the same side street as the John Hancock Tower. And I remember going to work a few days, you know, we were shut down for a few days because they're like, who the heck wanted to work? It was too depressing and scary. But when I did go back to work, I remember walking to work and coming around the corner, and it looked like a plane, because of the perspective I had, was going right into the John Hancock Tower. So it scared the bejesus out of me until I realized, you know, I wasn't seeing it head on. So anyway, decades passed after that 9/11 when it came to me, the realization of the power and the love that flooded the planet after 9/11. And the same type of thing is happening now, right? We're coming together to help each other. And even, people from around the world came to support us and didn't want that to happen to the United States. It was like, holy crap, if that can happen in the United States, it can happen anywhere, right? So there was a lot of fear, of course, but then many of us stepped into courage and willingness and acceptance that we're going to put have faith and love of country, right? So the energy of love of country, which is super high, it's like 500 on the map of consciousness, to love your country. And it's not an ego thing, it's a true love of country. And to come together, it's a oneness thing as well. It's coming together. And people that went to deal with the aftermath of 9/11 and the fire and all the first responders stepped in tremendous courage and valor. And the energies of all of this are flooding the planet on a massive basis. This is another kind of, at the time, based on Katy's video about the chakras, we were in like the heart chakra at that time as a collective. So as a collective, the energy of the heart is flooding the country. Unconditional love and support and courage and love of country is flooding the planetary consciousness because of 9/11. And what I understood about this, as tragic as it was, is that those involved in the loss of life at a spirit level likely would do it over again because they understood the level of love that, it's so meaningful at a spiritual level that you would give up your life all over again for it, because you understood the power of love and how meaningful it was to have played a part in that flood of consciousness onto the planet. Now, I had a similar experience, which is why it started, all this understanding is coming to me, the understanding of the meaningfulness of raising the level of consciousness on a particular, to have a flood of consciousness of oneness right now is incredibly meaningful. And those of us who die in this, or a kind of play the part, if you die, as you're dying, you're going to see how incredibly profound it was that you were part of this. And I understood this when I was going through a quantum spiritual awakening. When I was faced with horrific confrontations with what you would call evil, right? Not in human form, in energetic form. Incredibly horrific, beyond description. And I said to God, I am willing to die for this to end. And I understood, in hindsight, I'm like, I totally would do that again, to bring the level of consciousness and the ability to deal with that. Like, I shifted energies. I kind of broke through what's called a morphogenic field of acceptance, willingness to die for something at a higher level. So this is kind of, I'm not asking you to die or be aware of that, because it could be scary, but I was scared at the time, but I understood that I would do it again because of how profoundly meaningful it is at a higher level. So that's my story about 9/11 and what's going on now with the coronavirus and the spiritual meaningfulness of both of them and why it matters. So lastly, I want to share understanding levels of consciousness just slightly, even though I recommend you go watch the videos on the lower levels and the higher levels so you can put it into context. All right, where are we at? When you look at fear and doubt at 100 on the map of consciousness, you don't want to hang out there, let me tell you. You're not helpful. You're not helpful to yourself. You're not helpful to the entire situation. You're not helpful to anybody when you're in fear and doubt. No judgment, though, if you are, because you don't know any better of how to deal with it. You just kind of deal with it. So I have some, so fear and doubt is at 100 on the map of consciousness, but I'm asking you to step into courage on it, which is at 200. Now you have power. You're willing your courage, if you can step into courage on it, great. If you have to step into anger first, that's okay, because there's more power in anger. And then you just got to be willing to let it go, because you still have no power to solve the problem, but you're getting there. You're getting more power. If you get into some type of righteous pride, having to be right about anything energy, that's okay too. And I describe all of this in the How to Let Go video, which you can look at that again. So what I want to do is I'm going to share with you affirmations that are of higher consciousness that can help you accept what's going on right now, have more peace, inner peace with what's going on right now, and be a part of the change. Be willing to be the change, right? Be a part. Your energy field has a rippling effect. And when you enter the higher realms, you really start to affect more and more people. So my invitation is to join me in that. So here's some affirmations based on the map of consciousness and the different levels. So here's the first one. This just has to do with, if you're not ready for higher levels, you can just step into courage. And the affirmation is, I'm willing to step into vulnerability and courage on the situation, because I understand there's more power in doing so. That's the affirmation. I'm willing to step into courage on this situation because I understand there's more power in doing so. And it serves the highest good and my own good, for that matter. Okay, the next one is, the next level of consciousness. So courage is 200 on the map of consciousness. Neutrality is 250, which is a quantum leap above courage. But I think many of us can step into neutral, right? Have no position. And here's the affirmation. I'm willing to be neutral and allow this thing to play itself out. And you can feel the energy of it. It's like you're letting go of resistance to it, having to have an opinion about it, having to watch the news about it, whatever, right? You're stepping into power now. This is freeing too, by the way. Neutrality is a freeing level of consciousness I talk about. I have a whole video on neutrality and courage. So there's lots of resources for you to move into, I'll share all of this in my blog post. Okay, so neutral. I'm willing to be neutral and allow this thing to play itself out. That alone can bring you inner peace, because you're inviting the energy of it. The attractor field, be the magnet for that, and it's going to come into your experience. Acceptance is the next level of consciousness, which is a very high level of consciousness at 350. So here's the affirmation. I'm willing to accept this situation, and I understand. Understanding is 400 on the map of consciousness, all right? I'm willing to accept this situation and understand that my acceptance is a powerful part to play in having this thing play itself out more quickly, okay? You can take little pieces of that. You can just say, I'm willing to accept the situation, period. That's enough. I'm willing to understand that this situation requires higher consciousness to play itself out. Okay, so here's some other good ones. Hope. To have hope is a high level of consciousness at 310 on the map. And here's a simple affirmation. I have hope this will play itself out quickly. Period. That's it. Don't go into fear and doubt and how. Just have hope that it will. And the energy of that is an attractor field now to you, right? It's going to help you stay away from the virus, by the way, play it smart and intend for that, for you to be immune to it. I'm immune to it. I'm grateful for being immune to it. Next up is faith. Faith is a quantum leap above hope. And you may not be there yet because it's a high level of consciousness at 365 on the map. But you can, if you feel you have some energy of faith within you, which many of you do, you have faith in God, faith can move mountains at this level of consciousness. So my personal affirmation is I have faith. This is going to play itself out quickly. I have faith in higher consciousness and understanding. I have faith and understanding that this serves the highest good to play it out. And I have faith that's going to move quickly, and that we're all going to get what we need out of this, right? Energetically, we're all going to shift. Not all of us, but some of us for sure, which is enough. And lastly, I am willing to let go of any guilt I have right now. Guilt is an invitation for punishment. Okay? And I have unwittingly invited in an experience for which I felt like I needed to be punished at an unconscious level, and I got it. So I'm willing to let go of any guilt I may have right now for staying healthy. Don't have guilt about being healthy and immune to it. Be grateful. Grateful that I'm healthy and immune to it. That's a great affirmation. I am healthy. Healthy calibrates to 360. So if you can say I am healthy, and grateful for being immune to the coronavirus, then say it, right? As long as you're not vibrating guilt and doubt about it, because you'll invite it in, right? It's got to be a pure, clean, confident affirmation. So that's it for your weekly dose of higher consciousness. And I apologize, I took a 3-month break, but I'm back on track because I love doing this. I love sharing higher levels of consciousness and moving all of us, shifting the planet into a positive, neutral position, which is my goal, is to help move the level of consciousness of the planet from 207 to 250, which would be into neutrality, which would be super freeing for many of us. So, my final thing I promised I'm going to say at the end of every broadcast is, love is the truth. Love calibrates at 500 on the map of consciousness. And just because you don't believe it's the truth, it's just that it's a light years away from your awareness, but I'm bringing it into your awareness now so that you can build an understanding, use the mind, that love is way more powerful than the mind. So you might as well start to align with that understanding and accept it. If you like what's going on here and find this all helpful and joyful and meaningful, or you hate it, whatever, that's your perception, that's okay. Follow me on YouTube at trumpeteroftruth.tv.com or on my podcast at trumpeteroftruthradio.com. And if you find, and check out all the resources and links below, because I highly encourage you to listen in on the video from Katy Bray, who's the master energy and chakra architect, who talks about the history of the chakras and what's going on right now with the Crown Chakra as a collective experience, as well as Wendy DeRosa's grounded meditations for grounding for anxiety and clearing the chakras. Both of them are highly gifted, experienced teachers and healers. Check those out at the links below. If you have any comments or share this with your family and friends, I would greatly appreciate that. I need help in raising the level of consciousness around the planet. Ciao for now.